Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be looking at the difference between 3D path pegs and separate pegs. Each one has its own uses and it can make your life a lot easier or harder depending on the situation you use them in. Let's jump into Toon Boom and check it out. So what's the difference between the two? Well, for separate pegs, you can adjust these X, Y, and Z values independently. And 3D path pegs, you can't do that. Now, what does that mean? I don't really know, but what's really important to know is separate pegs are used for rigging. So if I'm building a rig, all my pegs need to be set as separate. And 3D path pegs are used for camera moves, for long motions, if an object is following a path. That's the only time you'll ever use a 3D path peg. That's when they're most effective. By default, when you're rigging, you want to use separate pegs. So go up to Edit, go to Preferences, and under Default, make sure this is always checked. Default separate peg position for pegs. That way you never have to worry about mixing these up, and you can only use 3D path pegs when you want to. So let's see these pegs in action. So if we come over here, I have this yellow smiley face. That's going to be our 3D path, and the red one's going to be a separate path. So what if we wanted to move these characters across the screen? Well, pretty easy. I'm going to keyframe at the beginning, keyframe at the end, and just move these guys across. And when we play it, straight line, pretty simple, not much going on there. But now, what if we wanted to have these characters follow this kind of S-curve path? How would we do that? Well, let's try our separate peg. It's going to be a little annoying because we have to go through the timeline and keyframe the different positions. Right, as he comes up, I'm going to have to move him up a little bit and then move him up a little bit more. Right? It's not very efficient, not very smooth as well, right? There's no nice curves. He's kind of just going up and down, and it doesn't look very good. Now, for our 3D path, it's very easy to do. We just need to go press this orange thing, and our path shows up. Now, on this line, we click it, press the key P one time, and a point shows up. And now we can move our path. Click over here, press P again, and we move our path up like this. And if you notice, it's really taking a shape of a nice, smooth curve. So if we play this animation, our yellow guy has a very smooth S-curve path. Let's play it at full speed. Nice. So the best part here is if we look at the timeline, I didn't add any keyframes. So I could adjust the timing of this animation and the path stays the same. I could even adjust the spacing and the path won't change either. So 3D paths give me a lot more freedom when it comes to manipulating how objects move. If we bring a camera into our scene and set that as a 3D path peg, we can adjust the movement in the same way. So let's keyframe the camera, one on the end, and let's move it across the screen as well. Now, I also want to give it a little bit of a S-curve path. So I'll click up here, and now another line pops up. I'll click the line, press P, move my camera down, click over here, press P, move my camera up, make sure it's a smooth curve, and then I'll add some ease to the camera. Let's give it something like 75, 75. Now, as we play it, the camera moves along that S-curve path with my objects. Now, if we really want to get fancy, we can move these objects in Zdepth as well. So if we look in our top view, we have the same path here as our timeline, but now we can grab these points and move them closer or farther away from the camera. Let's test out how that looks. Let's play it. Camera zooms out and it zooms in really crazy. We're getting some very cool motion here, and I still haven't keyframed anything on the timeline. This is a great way to simplify complex camera moves. Last thing, if we switch to our character, we can also make him move farther or closer to the camera. Let's see how that looks. We're getting some really wild motion. because of the 3D paths, I can play around with the timing and the spacing without ruining my animation. That's all I have for 3D path pegs. Not a lot of information, but I find it's very, very useful, especially if you're doing complex camera moves. You just gotta make sure that you don't use the wrong peg at the wrong time. So no 3D path pegs on your rigs. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Happy animating.